Hi, this is Greg Hildebrandt, and this is Katie. For the last 2 years, I've been painting nose cone art on World War II fighter planes. The one you're about to look at is a B-25 bomber called Russian to Getcha. Here I am in Texas. I'm about to transfer my sketch to the plane. It's a B-25 bomber, as I said, and in the Second World War, the U.S. had a Lend-Lease program with Russia, wherein we gave them like 15,000 airplanes. This was to be one of them. This plane didn't see combat, but the owner decided to do it up in the manner that the Russians would have painted it. Well, granted, they wouldn't have had a pinup painting on the plane, but that was the owner's decision. He came up with the title Russian to Getcha, and I came up with the pose and the attitude of the girl on the bomb. Okay, so the drawing's been transferred now, and there's a white line on the dark surface of the plane, where now Gene will start to sand and texture up the surface for me to start to paint on. Don't step backwards.
Trust me, I won't.
So after the surface was sanded, Gene then took white acrylic and filled in the entire white outline area.
Okay, so after I filled in the area for Greg, this is Gene, I've got the mask up, I'm lining it up, and I'm going to smooth it out. I'm going to pull the backing off here, and I'm going to smooth it out onto the plane, and we're going to pray that when I get this all done, that it's a perfect star, and I can fill in the middle of the star. So here I am smoothing it out, trying to get it perfectly flat around the rivets. Gonna get it flat. Gonna pull that backing down. And now I'm pulling it off, pulling the top layer off, hopefully without pulling the mask. And there you go. Got it.
Here I'm mixing up the flesh tones for the figure on the plane. This color is composed of red oxide, cadmium orange, cadmium red light, and titanium white. And the next color, this darker color, is red oxide with white in it. And then I'll mix a further highlight and then a darker shadow. So I got my colors established, and I sort of like spot them around, the highlights, shadows, to make sure everything is working. But mainly what it's about for me is I have to paint the eyes first. If I can't paint the eyes of the figure first, I mean, the whole thing just doesn't work for me. It sets a balance for the entire figure. So I get that established, and then I start to move on with the rest of the painting. So at this phase, I see that the colors and the values are working. So I just kind of like keep rendering. Mainly, as you can see, I'm doing the face, because once I get that defined, everything else kind of like just flows. And then I mix up another color for the black leather jacket, which is another series of values and from highlight to shadow. And I just proceed with that. I'll block that in maybe within a couple hours or so. So here the jacket's pretty well blocked in, along with the hat, which is the same color as the jacket. And the hair, I've started to block the hair in. You can see I'm starting to tightening up on certain areas. And it's also very broadly painted, and all this will get smoothed out. I kind of like keeping in my mind the old style of the pinup painters of the 40s, Vargas and Elvgren, when I do this kind of work. Even though I do my own thing, but those guys are there in my head, sort of like as icons to adulate. I think the second most important thing about a figure, other than the face, is the hands. So here I'm focusing on that, and also on the gun, and it's got to be accurate. So I got photographs of a 1944 Russian handgun. I use models for every figure I paint, and here I've got my photos to refer to. A big thing for me as I work on these World War II fighter planes or bombers is the knowledge of the history of these planes, and I feel a sense of awe and huge respect for the aircraft for sure, but for the men who heroes who flew these things, especially these bombers. I mean, these guys were sitting ducks up there, and it's just incredible. I used to draw planes as a little kid, copying Milt Caniff's masterpiece Terry and the Pirates, and here at 72, I'm finally working on the planes that I was drawing as a kid.
Okay, so where are you today?
I'm rendering the black jacket, and I'll be doing the boots. I've worked on this area a little bit up here to get ready for painting the star, and I get this area all cleaned up and finished off.
So you have everything blocked in? Is that what you're saying?
More or less, it's all blocked in. 95% blocked in. Now it's a matter of tightening up edges, smoothing out, going over stuff like this, and
You're putting your highlights on that jacket now?
putting the highlights on, blending it, building it up to a lighter highlight around the edges, so you get an edge light around the whole thing to make it stand out against the gray background of the plane.
I see that the colors you've used in this particular pinup seem to almost mate with the coloring on the plane itself, the paint job on the plane.
Yeah, that was a great accident, kind of. I mean, it sort of like ended up that way, just out of the choice of the color to make the costume, which is, say, black leather, which the halfway value of the black leather ends up matching the gray of the plane, and the darkest value of the black leather matches the black of the plane. And then there's some of that warmish highlight of the brownish color on the plane, which is burnt umber, which ends up as the highlight color on all these dark areas, so it all ties together. I'm saying I remember seeing some documentary on some American painter, I forgot who the hell it was, and his nephew stayed with him for a summer. And the nephew was being interviewed, and he said what he remembered was that the painter was in the studio, and the nephew would be in some other room, and he said there would be dead silence all day long,
Yeah.
punctuated by extreme outbursts of swearing.
So that's what art is?
That's art. That's what art's about. It's
Dead
like,
silence punctuated by extreme outbreaks of swearing?
yep.
Yeah?
It's like, who's it? Joseph Wambaugh, the ex-cop novelist, said that that's what police work is like long hours and days and months of extreme boredom, punctuated by moments of extreme violence. Here I am coming down to the end, painting the red star on the girl's hat and doing final touch-ups before we start the lettering. And it's like I really realize how important these men are who collect these planes, their contribution to history. If it wasn't for them, these planes would have all disappeared. And they maintain them, as you can see, and keep them up, and all the, not only the owners, but the crews and the mechanics and the pilots that work on these planes and fly these planes and keep them alive, and it's fantastic. It's a great contribution, and you really realize it when you're up close to them like this. I mean, you've seen pictures of them and in the movies and stills, but I'll tell you, when you're up close and working on a plane like this, you really get a sense of awe and respect. And to me, as an artist, it's a work of art. I know it's a utilitarian machine that was designed for a specific use, but it's beautiful. The design and construction, and for me, it's a real honor to be working on these things.